The sun began to set, casting an orange glow over the quiet street. Just another ordinary evening in a suburban neighborhood where families gathered for dinner and children chased each other down sidewalks. But as the sky darkened, an unusual sound pierced the stillness, a desperate, high-pitched wail that brought an unexpected surge of urgency to the night. It was a cry unlike any other, one that tugged at the heartstrings. The source. A tiny monkey, no more than a few weeks old, huddled fearfully in the gutter. Its glossy fur glimmered under the fading light, but its wide, teary eyes hinted at a deep sadness, an overwhelming sense of abandonment. This little creature, miles away from its natural home, found itself lost and alone in an unfriendly world. The neighbors paid little attention, too wrapped up in their own lives, but one woman, Jessica, couldn't ignore the sound. Returning from her shift at the hospital, her heart raced as she followed the cries. The last thing she expected was a baby monkey, shivering and begging for help. Instinctively, she crouched down, her eyes locking onto the frightened creature. The bond between them was immediate, each could sense the other's vulnerability. "Hey there, little guy," she whispered softly, slowly extending her hand. The monkey flinched at first, but desperation drove it closer. With a trembling paw, it reached out, those tiny fingers grasping her fingertips, as if it understood that this woman could be its lifeline. Jessica's heart ached. She scooped the monkey into her arms, feeling its rapid heartbeat against her chest. She murmured, her other hand stroking its back gently. The warmth of her body seemed to soothe the terrified creature. They stayed like that for a moment, encased in a fragile bubble of comfort amidst a bustling world. But the momentary connection was quickly overshadowed by the reality of the situation. Jessica knew the monkey couldn't stay. It was illegal to keep wild animals, but how could she just leave it there, exposed to the dangers of the street? A rush of adrenaline surged through her as she decided to take matters into her own hands. She'd find someone who could help. As she walked briskly down the sidewalk, cradling the little monkey, the streets became more ominous. The shadows of street lamps cast elongated silhouettes that danced around, almost mocking her for what she was doing. But this wasn't just a wild creature, it was a soul in need. Soon enough, she found her phone and called the local wildlife rescue. Her voice trembled as she described the tiny, distressed creature. "It's just a baby, it can't be alone." Minutes felt like hours, and her heart raced as she paced back and forth on the street, hoping for a miracle. The monkey nestled deeper into her arms, sensing her anxiety. Jessica's fingers tangled in its fur, providing a makeshift blanket of security, a warmth that wrapped around them both. Then the call came. "We can meet you at the park in 15 minutes. Relief washed over her. She had done the right thing. Just as hope blossomed, an unnerving thought crept in. What if the rescue team didn't arrive in time? Jessica knew she had to protect this life, to keep it safe, even as doubts nagged at the edges of her mind. She sat on a bench in the park, the cool metal contrasting with the warmth of the monkey's body against her skin. The blare of her phone broke, the silence alerts rang for the evening news, and she couldn't help but glance. A live report aired detailing an unusual sighting of a baby monkey found lost in the street. The crowd gathered around the park, intrigued and eager for drama. Jessica thought, anxiety creeping back. The urgency of the rescue team was now tangled with the chaos of curious onlookers. They swarmed around her, cameras raised, their eyes glinting with a mix of fascination and concern. But Jessica didn't mind the attention. She was focused solely on the creature in her arms. Then came a voice cutting through the crowd, a woman rushing towards her with a rush of determination. Oh my God, this woman, a wildlife rescuer named Sarah, seemed like an angel sent straight from above. With a comforting smile, she reached out to take the baby monkey from Jessica. But as soon as Sarah laid her hands on the monkey, Jessica felt it squirm. The little creature squeaked in protest, burying its head deeper into Jessica's arms. The face of the monkey reflected a storm of emotions, fear, confusion, and a raw attachment to the stranger who had saved its life. Jessica's heart sank at the thought of parting with this helpless being. Wait, she said, gripping the monkey tightly. I can't just hand it over, it needs me. Sarah stepped back, understanding the emotional turmoil that broke between them. I know it's hard, but we need to make sure he's safe. The crowd murmured, some expressing their support, others quickly embracing the drama. People love stories of animals being saved. They thrive on the tension, the emotions, and the victories. But in this moment, Jessica felt only despair. What if letting go was abandoning him? Tears welled up in her eyes. What if he doesn't make it? Realizing the risk of letting fear take over, Sarah interjected gently. Look, I promise we will care for him. Our job is to rehabilitate him so he can be released back into the wild. The words echoed in Jessica's mind. Could she really trust this stranger to care for the baby monkey? She battled with her emotions, the urge to hold on hovering alongside the need to do what was best for him. Then a sudden silence fell over the crowd, almost as if nature itself paused for a breath. In that fleeting moment, Jessica saw the truth. She had fought for this tiny creature, and that fight mattered the most. Sometimes love meant letting go, even if it broke your heart. With a trembling hand, she slowly transferred the monkey into Sarah's arms. The crowd watched, breath held, waiting for the emotional climax. But instead of tears, a sense of calm washed over Jessica. She sensed the monkey relax for the first time, finally cradled in a safe embrace. As this little creature left her warmth, Jessica felt as if she had become part of something bigger. Her actions resonated beyond just saving a baby monkey. It echoed the very essence of compassion, taking a stand for someone who needed help, no matter the outcome. The crowd erupted with applause, voices celebrating the rescue, while Jessica remained still, feeling the weight of loss and triumph. She had done everything she could. Days passed, yet the memory lingered. News outlets were abuzz with updates on the little monkey, affectionately named Oliver. Sarah, the rescuer, posted about his recovery, showing glimpses of him playing with other monkeys at the sanctuary, an image of joy and freedom. Jessica didn't just follow the story, she became immersed in it. Eventually, she visited the sanctuary, where charitable hearts gathered, all eager to support the healing of wild lives. She watched Oliver frolic freely in the trees, a smile painting her face as laughter filled the air. In that space, surrounded by others who had the same love for animals, she felt the weight lift from her soul. Months later, Oliver was ready for reintroduction into the wild, a moment that felt bittersweet yet exhilarating. Everyone gathered at the edge of a lush forest, excitement buzzing through the crowd. Oliver glanced back, a fleeting moment revealing a connection that was undeniable, a silent thank you for the chance at life he'd been given. The idea of letting go was daunting, yet in that release, something remarkable occurred. A sense of freedom poured over both, an innate bond solidified in their hearts forever. As she walked away, tears mingling with smiles, she understood that some stories don't conclude with finality. They weave into something larger, creating ripples of empathy and action across the world. And sometimes, it only takes a single moment on a normal evening, a call for help, and a courageous heart to change everything. The late afternoon sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over an ordinary street. Children played, laughter echoed, and families gathered on porches, soaking in the last rays of summer. Yet from somewhere down the block, a chilling sound pierced through the idyllic scene, an urgent, heart-wrenching cry. It was a sound that didn't belong, a desperate wail that emanated from the depths of anguish and fear. There, in the shadow of a rusted garbage can, lay the source of the cries, a tiny baby monkey no more than a few weeks old. Its fur was matted, and its eyes shimmered with unshed tears. The pitiful creature shivered, feeling lost and abandoned in a world far removed from its natural home. The sight tore at the heart, a stark reminder that sometimes innocence finds itself trapped in dire situations. On this warm evening, Sarah, a compassionate woman returning from her shift as a nurse, stumbled upon the scene. As she approached, the cries grew louder, piercing through her heart like an arrow. Her gut instinct kicked in. She felt a pull, an undeniable urge to rescue this fragile creature. The mundane chatter of nearby neighbors faded into oblivion. In that moment, it was just her and the monkey, two souls caught in a storm of emotion. "SHHH, it's okay," she whispered soothingly as she knelt beside the trembling bundle. The monkey looked up at her, its wide eyes filled with fear and confusion, as if pleading for help. The bond was instantaneous and raw. Sarah reached out a tentative hand, and after a moment's hesitation, the little monkey pressed itself against her palm, seeking warmth and comfort. But as Sarah cradled the baby monkey close to her heart, reality loomed around them. She knew she was stepping into dangerous territory. Keeping a wild animal was illegal, and the thought of handing it over to the authorities sent a shiver down her spine. What would happen to it? Would they simply place it in a cage? The monkey needed compassion, care, a chance to thrive outside of captivity. As if sensing her turmoil, the monkey nestled closer, tucking its tiny head into the crook of her arm. It was a gesture that spoke volumes, a silent plea that ignited a fire within her. This wasn't just a rescue mission, it felt like a calling, but what could she do next? She frantically scrolled through her phone, her heart racing as she searched for the nearest wildlife rescue organization. Please pick up," she murmured, anxiety twisting her stomach into knots as she waited on the line. Finally, a voice answered, calm and composed. A wave of relief washed over Sarah as she explained the situation. "There's a baby monkey and it needs immediate help." Her voice trailed off as fear gripped her heart. Would they take it seriously? The seconds dragged painfully as the operator listened, and Sarah could almost hear her mind racing through the options. Just as doubt began to creep in, she heard the soothing voice return with a promise. "We'll send someone to meet you in 30 minutes. "Thank you," Sarah breathed, a rush of determination filling her veins. She would stay. In that moment, while she held the monkey against her chest, shielding it from the world's cruelty, she felt a protective instinct bloom inside her. As she waited, Sarah's eyes darted around. Curiosity seekers began to gather, drawn by the cries of the helpless monkey. They leaned over fences, peering with a mix of horror and intrigue, as if the presence of a baby monkey on a sidewalk was all too surreal. Among the crowd, a few people voiced their intentions to call animal control, while others pointed phones, recording every moment. At that moment, the spontaneously gathered crowd transformed from mere onlookers to a sea of voices, each perspective layered with opinions on what to do next. Sarah felt a tide of pressure, the weight of judgment and scrutiny hanging in the air. Would people understand? Would they criticize her for even touching the monkey in the first place? Just then, a woman with striking blonde hair stepped forward, visibly moved. "I used to volunteer at a wildlife rehab center," she declared, her voice firm yet gentle. "They'll know how to help." Sarah looked into the stranger's eyes, searching for validation and finding it there. Despite the uncertainty swirling around them, one truth stood firm. This monkey deserved a chance, and she was fighting for that chance with every ounce of her being. Minutes felt like hours as she cradled the little creature, whispering soft reassurances to help it calm. Suddenly, she felt a soft tug on her shirt. A little boy, no more than 7, stepped closer, wide-eyed and fascinated. He asked, innocence shining in his hopeful expression. Sarah hesitated. While she wanted to share this moment, she didn't want to overwhelm the monkey. But just as she was about to say no, she saw the boy's sparkling eyes, the sheer wonder lighting up his face. She replied, signaling him to approach slowly. With gentle fingers, the boy stroked the monkey's head, and a ripple of calm spread through the air. The crowd collectively held its breath as they witnessed this tender interaction. Sarah marveled at how moments of compassion could bridge the gap between fear and connection. The boy drew back, and for a moment, all eyes rested on the monkey, the embodiment of vulnerability, yet seemingly in control as it surveyed the gathered crowd, sensing the love that surrounded it. Just as the tension began to abate, sirens echoed in the distance, a hopeful sound cutting through the growing darkness. The wildlife rescue team arrived, their presence commanding immediate attention. 2 compassionate workers in bright orange uniforms emerged from the van, carrying supplies and an aura of confidence. One of them called out, scanning the group. With a mix of eagerness and anxiety, Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding. She could finally hand over the fragile little being to those who knew how to help it. The workers approached with the utmost care. "Let me see him," one said softly, eyes wide as they beheld the tiny creature. Sarah gingerly placed the monkey into their hands, her heart heavy but hopeful. But then, as the monkey was being transferred, it let out a shrill cry, a cry that vibrated through her heart. It was an unmistakable sound of loss and fear. The bond they had formed in such a short time surged through Sarah's veins, leaving her breathless. She hadn't just rescued a monkey, she had forged a connection, a heartbeat that echoed her own. "Hey, hey," one of the rescuers said gently, his hands steady as he cradled the monkey. "It's okay." The workers gathered around, stroking the monkey to comfort it, speaking in soothing tones designed to reassure. As they began to prepare it for transport, Sarah felt a wave of bittersweet emotions crash over her. She realized that saving him meant stepping back, allowing him to receive the care he desperately needed. Suddenly, a voice rose from the crowd, loud and forceful. A man shouted. His tone carried a hint of skepticism, as if he doubted the intentions of the rescuers. The woman from the crowd earlier chimed in, "They're going to rehabilitate him, and then he'll be released back into the wild." But doubts hung in the air, and Sarah felt intense pressure to speak up. "Listen," she said, her voice breaking through the noise, "we all want to give him the best chance at life." Her gaze swept over the faces in the crowd, urging them to understand. It was more than just a baby monkey. It was a spark of life that needed nurturing, not judgment. As the rescuers began to wrap up their work, the crowd started to disperse, some with satisfied smiles while others still wore faces of disbelief. Sarah lingered, watching as the workers guided the monkey into a cozy carrier. They promised her updates, reassuring her that she had done an incredible job. With one last look at the little creature, she felt a resolve solidify within her. The comfort of knowing she had fought for this life hung in the air like a warm embrace. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together in spirit, no matter how far apart they might roam. Days turned into weeks, and news buzzed around the community about the baby monkey found in the street. Sarah followed the story closely, eager for updates. Each post filled her with a mix of pride and concern. Was he thriving? Would he be okay? Finally, a glimmer of hope emerged. The rescue center shared videos showcasing Oliver, the name they'd given him. He was climbing, swinging joyfully among branches in a simulated jungle. The sight of him thriving left Sarah in awe. While standing in her own living room, she felt an overwhelming urge to reach out. That small creature had ignited a flame within her, a purpose that demanded more than just passive compassion. She couldn't just be an observer, she had to be involved. With determination burning bright, Sarah signed up to volunteer at the Wildlife Center. It was there that she found a welcoming community, people who shared her passion for creatures in need. As she dove into the work, each rescued animal reignited the same fire within her and expanded her understanding of the interconnectedness of life. Months later, the moment arrived, the day Oliver would be reintroduced to the wild. The center organized a public event to celebrate, drawing supporters who had followed his journey. As the sun broke through the trees, illuminating the gathering, the hearts of the people swelled with anticipation. Sarah stood among the crowd, her heart racing with emotions. The air buzzed with excitement as the workers prepared for Oliver's release. They opened the carrier, and Oliver peered out, cautiously surveying the lush scenery before him. "You can do this, little one," Sarah whispered, her heart aching for him to embrace his freedom. With a gentle push, Oliver stepped onto the ground. He paused, looking back as if he remembered the hands that had saved him. but it was time for him to explore to reclaim the wild. Before the crowd, he leaped forward, bounding into a dense patch of foliage, diving back into his rightful place. As cheers erupted around her, Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. She had been part of something powerful, something life-changing. She glanced up, and in that moment it was clear. Compassion had spread, rippling through every heart present. Later, as people exchanged stories and celebrated, Sarah realized that her journey had begun far beyond finding a crying baby monkey in the street. It was about connection as humans, as beings sharing this world, and as voices for those who couldn't speak. Innocence had touched lives. The tiny creature was no longer just a memory, but a beacon of hope. And as Sarah stood there, surrounded by warmth and joy, she understood one undeniable truth. Love knows no boundaries, and sometimes it starts with a single cry that brings us all closer together. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm orange glow over a quiet street. Children laughed as they played tag, their voices blending into a comforting soundtrack of suburban life. But amid this cheerful scene, a desperate sound broke through the normalcy, a high-pitched wail, sharp and filled with anguish. It didn't fit, it didn't belong. A passerby paused, a long-haired woman named Emily, her heart quickening at the sound. She followed it, each step bringing a rising sense of urgency. Just ahead, she spotted something huddled against the curb, a wrinkled little creature looking utterly lost and terrified. A baby monkey, barely a few weeks old, was sitting there, trembling and alone, its big, round eyes swimming with tears. Emily's heart sank. The tiny animal was clearly scared, its tiny body vibrating with distress as it let out another heartbreaking cry, one that echoed the primal need for safety and love. In that moment, the normal sounds of the evening faded away. All that mattered was this little creature. Without hesitation, she knelt down, reaching out her hands slowly. "SHH, little one," she cooed softly, her voice soothing. The monkey flinched, inching back at first, but something in Emily's gentle tones seemed to break through the wall of fear. The little creature took a hesitant step forward. It was as if it sensed kindness, its instinct pushing it to seek protection. Time slowed. Emily could feel a connection forming, one built on mutual vulnerability. "It's okay, sweetie. I've got you," she whispered, her heart racing as the monkey, against all odds, climbed into her palm. She lifted it close to her chest, warmth flooding her as the baby monkey nestled into the fabric of her shirt, seeking shelter. But reality quickly crashed back in. Emily knew she couldn't just take the monkey home with her. Wild animals belonged in nature, not in a suburban house. It was illegal, and the last thing she wanted to do was make matters worse for this precious life. She needed to find help, and fast. As she stood, cradling the monkey against her heart, she fished her phone from her pocket. Her hands shook with adrenaline as she searched for wildlife rescue. Finally, she found a number and pressed call, her mind racing with anxiety. "Please pick up, please let someone be there," she murmured as the phone rang. After what felt like a lifetime, a calm voice answered. "Wildlife Rescue Hotline." With an urgency that surged through her, Emily described the situation. "There's a baby monkey I found on the street, and it's crying. It needs help. Stay where you are." "We'll have someone dispatched to you in 10 minutes, the operator replied, a soothing tone allowing Emily to breathe a little easier. "Thank you," she replied, her heart swelling with both relief and fear. 10 minutes felt like an eternity, especially as she looked down at the trembling creature in her hands. The monkey peeked up at her, those wide eyes filled with confusion. It was a tiny life clinging to her, seeking warmth in an unpredictable world. The sunlight began to fade, and the streetlights flickered on, casting eerie shadows. The world around them felt like it was shifting, and as much as she wanted to provide comfort, Emily was painfully aware of the potential dangers lurking nearby. The cries had drawn a few curious onlookers who edged closer, their faces a mix of fascination and concern. Someone called from the crowd. The fear in their voices echoed Emily's own worries. This was more than just a baby monkey. It was a beacon of life, a reminder of vulnerability in the animal kingdom. But as the crowd began to murmur, Emily felt the pressure mounting. Standing up, she raised her hand, creating a barrier between the monkey and the gathering crowd, shielding it with her own vulnerability. "Please, everyone, give us some space," Emily urged, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. That's when another woman stepped forward, her long black hair pulled back into a tight ponytail, determination radiating from her stance. "I'm a veterinary technician," Emily's heart raced. "Can you take a look at him?" The technician approached cautiously, her hands outstretched in understanding. As Emily gently positioned the monkey, the technician frowned but smiled softly. The technician examined the monkey, her fingers moving lightly against its fur. "It seems healthy, but he's definitely in shock." Just as Emily felt a rush of hope, a voice broke through the tension. A man from the crowd stepped forward, his expression skeptical. An instinctual wave of defensiveness surged through Emily. "He's lost and alone." The man crossed his arms, a thick frown marring his brow. Her heart pounded in her chest because I can feel that he needs us. The words tumbled out, fueled by emotion that had built within her, a solid case for compassion in a world that often favored indifference. With the technician's steady gaze anchoring her, Emily felt her resolve strengthen. This was a chance to make a difference. Moments later, the sound of sirens sliced through the air. Relief poured over her. The wildlife rescue team arrived, clad in bright uniforms, their presence like a beacon of hope. One of the rescuers called, scanning the crowd. Emily stepped forward, cradling the fragile creature. "I found him." The crowd parted, allowing the rescuers to approach with care. "Let's take a look," one of them said, reaching for the baby monkey. Emily was hesitant, still feeling the pangs of attachment, but she understood. This was no longer just about her, it was about saving a life. As she handed the monkey over, he squeaked, frantically reaching back for her. "It's okay, buddy," she murmured, her voice breaking as she reassured him. As they transferred him to their care, Emily felt her heart crack a little more, but the warmth of knowing that he was getting the help he needed washed over her. The team swiftly assessed the baby monkey, their movements smooth and professional. "Good job finding him in time," one rescuer said, giving her a grateful nod. Her selflessness shone bright in that moment, like a lighthouse guiding him home. He was likely abandoned. Just as Emily began to feel a sense of calm return, the initial skeptic shouted out, "What if he ends up in a zoo?" "I can tell you," the technician responded firmly, "he will be rehabilitated and eventually released back into the wild." Emily held on to those words. The fear and doubt spinning in her head started to settle. She had done everything she could, and for that she was proud. This wasn't just about one little monkey. It was about raising awareness, sparking compassion, and uniting a community around a vulnerable creature. As the rescue team prepared to transport the monkey to the center, they assured her she would receive updates. A wave of gratitude washed over Emily. She had taken the first step, and in that act of love, she sparked something beautiful, a connection that transcended species, a reminder that every life matters. The next day, Emily woke with the sun streaming through her window, the memory of the previous day playing vividly in her mind. She needed to know what happened to the baby monkey. She grabbed her phone, opened social media, and searched for any updates. To her surprise, she found a post from the Wildlife Rescue Center. It showed a photo of the baby monkey nestled in a soft bed of straw with an announcement. "Thanks to a compassionate heroine, this little one is now safe and sound." Tears brimmed in Emily's eyes, the weight of yesterday's events mingling with joy. She shared the post, her heart swelling with pride. Oliver represented more than just a single creature. He symbolized the power of compassion in action. In the days that followed, Emily became more involved with the rescue center. She volunteered every weekend, pouring her heart into helping wild animals in need. Each rescued animal reminded her of Oliver, fueling the fire of determination within her. She wanted to be a voice for those who couldn't speak, to be an advocate for those who needed care and love. The community rallied around her efforts. Flyers were distributed, fundraising events emerged, and people united, drawn together by a single act of kindness. It brought joy to Emily's heart to realize that the once quiet street they all lived on had transformed into a hub of compassion. Months passed, and Oliver grew stronger at the rescue center. Emily received regular updates, seeing him flourish among other monkeys, learning to climb and play. The footage of him swinging from branch to branch lit up her feed, sparking joy in everyone who followed his journey. Finally, the day arrived, the day when Oliver would be reintroduced into the wild. The rescue center organized a community event filled with excitement and hope. Emily stood among the crowd, her heart thundering with anticipation as they gathered at a lush reserve, the perfect habitat for Oliver. As the workers prepared the release, Emily felt a swell of pride. This was what it was all about, giving him a chance at freedom, a chance to live as he was meant to. The excitement in the air was electric, building with each passing moment. Finally, the moment came. The carrier door swung open slowly, and Oliver peeked out, gazing at the world beyond. With a deep breath, he took his first steps into the wild, a timid moment transforming into a joyous leap toward freedom. Cheers erupted from the crowd as he bounded into the trees, seeming to dance with the wind. Through her tears, Emily felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. She had played a part in this miracle. She had fought for this life. As the gathering spread out, mingling in laughter and celebration, Emily knew that her heart was forever emblazoned with the warmth of that small creature's journey. The life she once saved had opened doors not only for him, but for her. She had discovered purpose, community, and love. In that moment, surrounded by others who had rallied together, Emily understood that every act of kindness, no matter how small, could ignite change. Oliver had sparked a fire, awakening compassion in a community that refused to turn a blind eye, reminding everyone that sometimes it only takes a single voice to change a life forever. The afternoon sun hung low over a quiet urban street, bathing everything in a soft amber glow. Laughter echoed from nearby parks, children sprinting joyfully, their energy creating a comforting soundtrack to suburban life. But a sound abruptly interrupted this idyllic scene, a high-pitched wail, sharp and piercing like nothing anyone had heard before. It was a cry that resonated with anguish, a desperate plea that pulled at the heartstrings. Maria, a woman in her late 30s, was on her way home from work, her mind racing with thoughts of dinner plans and laundry. But when she heard that heartbreaking sound, something primal stirred within her. She turned the corner and followed the noise, her instincts guiding her like a compass. What she discovered sent a chill down her spine. Huddled against a dilapidated fence, a tiny baby monkey was curled up in a ball, tears streaming down its furry little face. It trembled, looking utterly lost, its wide eyes reflecting terror and confusion. Maria's heart sank. Right then and there, an overwhelming wave of protectiveness washed over her. "SHH, little one," Maria cooed softly, crouching low to the ground. Her voice was gentle, an anchor in a storm that raged around them. The monkey's cries quieted just a bit, and it lifted its head slightly, eyeing her with a mix of curiosity and fear. With trembling hands, Maria slowly approached the tiny creature, focusing on the connection blossoming between them. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered. Encouraged by her tone, the little monkey took a hesitant step toward her and then another, inching closer until it was within reach. Maria extended her hand, fingers outstretched, and as the monkey grasped her palm, warmth flooded through her. It was a moment of instinct, a recognition that transcended language and species. This little life was in need, and she felt compelled to help. But as she gathered the creature into her arms, an unsettling thought grazed her mind. What now? Keeping a wild animal was illegal, and while her heart screamed for her to take the monkey home, she knew better. She couldn't just run away with it. Her heart pounded, knowing she had to find immediate help. "I need to call someone," she murmured, her voice steadying as she fished for her phone. The world around her faded into a blur. It was just her and the baby monkey, two souls entwined in uncertainty. With trembling fingers, she typed in the number for wildlife rescue. After what felt like an eternity, a calm voice answered the phone. Taking a deep breath, Maria frantically described the situation. "There's a baby monkey found in the street. It's crying and I don't know what to do." "Stay right where you are. We'll send someone to you," the operator stated firmly, instilling a sense of hope within her. "Thank you," she breathed, her heart pounding with the weight of responsibility. The next few moments felt suspenseful, and the once vibrant street around her began to dim. Shadows stretched longer as the sun dipped lower, painting everything in shades of twilight. The little monkey nestled closer to her, its tiny heart beating wildly against her chest. Wrapping her arms around it, she felt the warmth radiating from its small body, a comfort in this chaotic moment. As she waited, onlookers began to gather, drawn in by the haunting cries. Some were curious, pulling out their phones to record the scene, while others displayed concern etched into their faces. Maria locked eyes with a man in the crowd, a look of skepticism crossing his features. He asked, his voice tinged with doubt, "It's a baby monkey." Maria replied, her voice rising with urgency. He retorted, crossing his arms skeptically. Doubt crept in, threatening to overshadow her resolve. What if she was making a mistake? But as she felt the little monkey nestled deeper against her heart, she pushed through the fear. He needs someone to care for him. Just then, a woman stepped through the crowd, her expression softening at the sight of the baby monkey. "I'm a vet." The determination in her voice broke through the tension. Maria asked, hope igniting once more. "Of course," the veterinarian said, her approach gentle yet assertive. Carefully, Maria handed the monkey to the vet, each moment stretching out as if the world around them had gone silent. The little creature's cries echoed in her mind, tugging at every emotion she had, but seeing the vet's calm demeanor gave her a flicker of hope. As the vet cradled the monkey, she began a quick assessment. He looked scared but otherwise healthy. Just as relief washed over Maria, another voice cut through the air, a man in the crowd, his skepticism returning. What if you just make things worse? With a deep breath, Maria felt her courage rise. "He deserves a chance. We can't let fear stop us from helping him," she declared, looking around at the gathering crowd, seeking support in their eyes. The vet nodded, understanding the urgency. "Exactly, every moment counts." Within minutes, the sirens of the rescue team echoed in the distance, cutting through the tension and igniting hope in Maria's chest. They soon arrived, uniforms vibrant against the dimming light, ready to save the day. One rescuer called out. Taking a step forward, Maria felt a surge of empowerment. "I found him," she said, her voice firm. As the team approached, carefully taking the monkey into their hands, the world seemed to hold its breath. Maria could see the concern etched on their faces, but also the determination, the shared goal of saving a life. "Good job taking care of him," one rescuer said, compassion emanating from them. The little monkey let out a soft whimper as he was transferred, his tiny body trembling. Maria felt a pang in her chest. Would he be okay? With the attention of the gathered crowd shifting towards the rescuers, one woman stepped up, tears glistening in her eyes. "Will he be all right?" "Yes," the rescuer assured her. In an instant, something magical happened. Everyone began to cheer, reaching out to offer their support, their worries transforming into hope. Maria felt a tide of unity wash over her, the shared love for this little creature turning skepticism into celebration. But as the rescuers prepared to drive off, Maria hesitated, her heart still heavy. "Can I?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Of course," one of the rescuers replied, handing her a card with contact details. Hours turned into days, but Maria hardly thought of anything else. She followed the rescue center's updates religiously, losing herself in videos and photos of the little monkey named Max. He was thriving. Each new post showed him climbing, playing, and eventually socializing with other monkeys. The joy of his recovery filled her with warmth, reigniting her own sense of purpose. Inspired by Max's journey, Maria decided to volunteer at the Wildlife Rescue Center, eager to help in any way she could. The first day, she walked through the doors confident yet nervous. She was met by a group of welcoming faces, people who shared her passion for helping those in need. One volunteer exclaimed, "You're going to love it here." As she got to work, each rescued creature resonated with her heart. They were all deserving of love and protection, and she felt a deep satisfaction in helping to heal their wounds. Weeks passed, and the announcement came. Max was ready to be released back into the wild. Maria's heart soared with excitement as she marked the date on her calendar. A community event was planned, inviting everyone who had followed his journey. It seemed the whole town had rallied around Max, the little monkey that had sparked a wave of compassion. On the day of the release, anticipation buzzed in the air like electricity. Maria arrived at the designated spot in the lush forest, the sun shining down, illuminating the beauty of the landscape. As the community gathered, laughter and chatter filled the space, and Maria felt a swell of pride. It was more than just a release, it was a testament to the power of kindness and love. Finally, the moment had arrived. The rescuers carefully opened the carrier door, revealing Max, who stepped out hesitantly, surveying the new world before him. Maria held her breath, a rush of emotions flooding her. "Go on, Max," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. In that moment, Max took a tentative step forward before breaking into a joyful leap. He bounded into the forest, wild and free. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices rising in celebration. As Max disappeared into the greenery, Maria felt a profound sense of fulfillment swell within her. She had been part of something truly extraordinary, a reminder that every act of kindness has the potential to create waves of change. The community continued to thrive on the momentum inspired by Max's journey. Maria became a dedicated member of the Wildlife Rescue Center, hosting fundraisers and awareness campaigns, using her story as a catalyst for change. In her heart, she knew this was just the beginning. Max had sparked not only awareness about wildlife preservation, but also a bond among people, uniting them in the effort to protect the voiceless. As she watched the winds rustle through the trees, she realized that Max's story was not just about a baby monkey found in the street. It was about the profound connection between humans and animals, the importance of compassion, and the endless possibilities that arise when individuals come together to make a difference. And so, on that ordinary street where Max was once lost, a beautiful community of support and love had formed, a living testament to the idea that sometimes all it takes is one little cry to change everything. It was just another ordinary Tuesday afternoon when the unexpected happened. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Cars whizzed by, children laughed in the distance, and the air was thick with the scent of barbecue sizzling in backyards. But something was wrong, something out of place in this tranquil scene. A sound broke through the evening calm, a sorrowful wail, hauntingly delicate and oddly out of place. Ivy, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a nurturing spirit, was walking home from her job at the nearby clinic when she heard it. At first, she thought it was a stray cat or perhaps a child in distress, the murmur of a neighborhood that often echoed chaos. But as she drew closer, her heart sank. It was the unmistakable cry of a baby monkey, quivering with fear, a tiny creature lost and alone in an unforgiving urban landscape. With each conflicted step, Ivy felt an increasing tug at her heartstrings. She murmured to herself, curiosity and compassion battling for dominance. She turned the corner, finding the source of the cries hidden behind some trash cans at the edge of a dark alley. There, trembling in a puddle of discarded soda and a tattered cardboard box, was a tiny baby monkey. Its glossy fur was matted, and its wide eyes brimmed with tears, searching for anyone to rescue it from its plight. "Oh, you poor thing," Ivy whispered, her heart aching at the sight. The little monkey instinctively curled into a ball, shivering from both fear and the chill of the evening. Ivy knew she couldn't just walk away. This was a life in desperate need. As she crouched down, Ivy felt that instant connection, an unspoken bond forged from vulnerability. "It's okay," she soothed, her voice low and soft, barely above a whisper. Slowly, she extended her hand, offering it cautiously. The monkey hesitated, its teary eyes flickering between hope and fear. But then, as if sensing her genuine intent, it took a hesitant step forward. It was the kind of moment that could bring a rush of joy to anyone witnessing it. The instinct to connect overshadowed the instinct to retreat. Once it was within reach, Ivy scooped the tiny creature up. Its frail body fit perfectly in the palm of her hand, and in that split second, the world outside faded into oblivion. All that mattered was this little soul in need of rescue. She could feel its heartbeat racing against her skin, a frantic rhythm that mirrored her own growing anxiety. But as the warmth of tenderness enveloped her, another reality loomed large. What was she supposed to do next? Keeping a wild animal was illegal. The last thing Ivy wanted was to face legal repercussions, but she couldn't just leave it there, exposed to the dangers of the street. The thought sent a wave of panic coursing through her. She fumbled with her phone, willing her hands to stop shaking as she searched for the local wildlife rescue hotline. Please, please let someone answer, she muttered, her heart pounding. After what felt like an eternity, the ringing stopped and a calm voice greeted her. With a burst of adrenaline, Ivy launched into the details, her words tumbling out in a rush. There's a baby monkey. I found it in the alley and it's all alone. Time felt suspended, her breath catching in her throat as she awaited a response. We're sending someone right away, so don't hang up, the operator assured her. Relief flooded through Ivy, but it was short-lived. She glanced down at the tiny monkey in her hands, still shivering and quietly whimpering. Stay with me, little one, she urged, holding it closer, feeling its warmth and fear intertwined with her own. As the moments dragged on, Ivy could hear distant voices, curious bystanders drawn in by the heartbreaking cries. A small crowd began to gather, their faces a mixture of concern and fascination. Some pulled out their cell phones, recording the unfolding drama like something out of a reality TV show. One woman exclaimed, her voice high-pitched with excitement. Is it a pet? That's when Ivy noticed a man pushing through the crowd, a skeptical look etched on his face. You shouldn't be handling wild animals like that, he shouted, his voice cutting through the murmurs. With her heart racing, Ivy met his gaze. It's not dangerous, it's scared, and it needs help, she said, a raw determination rising within her, but doubt flickered in her mind. Could she really save this little creature, or was she walking into a bigger mess? Just then, a voice cut through the chaos, calming the rising tide of emotions. I'm a veterinarian, said a woman pushing her way through the crowd. Ivy asked, her heart swelling with hope. The vet stepped closer, kneeling down to examine the baby monkey. Yes, she implored, gently reaching out for the tiny creature. The moment Ivy placed the monkey in her hands, she could see the vet's eyes soften with understanding. As the vet began her assessment, Ivy held her breath, anxious for updates. He looks frail, but otherwise healthy. We need to get him to a wildlife rehab center ASAP, the vet announced. Just then, the man from before chimed in again. What's going to happen to it? Ivy's stomach twisted with the weight of that question. She knew that many people shared doubts about wildlife rehabilitation, unsure if it was the right thing to do. It will be okay, she replied firmly, searching the crowd for support. The tension hung thick in the air, but at that moment, the sound of sirens sliced through the noise. Relief washed over her like a wave as the wildlife rescue team rolled up, ready to take charge. They hopped out of their van, exuding confidence and purpose. One rescuer called out, scanning the crowd. Ivy exclaimed, stepping forward. As they approached, the crowd reluctantly began to part, allowing the rescuers access to the fragile creature. Ivy felt the weight of her decision settle deep in her chest. This was the moment she had worked for, the moment she had hoped for. One rescuer reached for the monkey, and as they lifted him, he let out a soft cry, clinging desperately to Ivy's finger. It's okay, buddy, she murmured, tears rising in her eyes. The rescuers worked quickly, wrapping him in a blanket and securing him safely into a carrier. Great job bringing him in, one of them said, a smile breaking across their face. As the rescue team loaded the carrier, Ivy watched as the crowd began to disperse, murmurs of awe lingering in the air. And while she felt a sense of accomplishment, a nagging fear gripped her heart. What if he didn't make it? What if she had done all this for nothing? We'll keep you updated on his progress, one of the rescuers said, handing Ivy a card with contact information. After wave upon wave of relief, the reality set in. In mere moments, this little creature had transformed her life. As the van pulled away, Ivy couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The days that followed were filled with anticipation. Ivy spent countless hours anxiously checking her phone, hoping for news on the little monkey she had named Leo in her mind. What was happening to him? Would he be okay? Then one morning, she discovered a post on the rescue center's social media page. There it was, a photo of Leo nestled in soft bedding, his small frame looking safe and sound. The caption read, "Thanks to a compassionate hero, this little one is recovering well." Tears streamed down her face as joy bubbled within her. She thought, her excitement prompting her to share the post with friends. Leo had not only survived, he was thriving. With each passing week, Ivy became more connected. She started volunteering at the Wildlife Rescue Center, becoming an active part of the community dedicated to safeguarding animals like Leo. Her heart swelled with purpose, her spirit ignited by every creature she helped heal. Then the moment arrived. Leo was finally ready to be released back into the wild. The rescue center organized a community event, inviting everyone who had followed his journey. Ivy felt a mix of emotions, anticipation, hope, and an unmistakable sense of pride. This was bigger than just a monkey. It was a testament to what compassion could achieve. As she stood surrounded by friends and supporters, the sun shining down, it felt like destiny. When the moment of release arrived, Ivy's heart raced. They opened the carrier and Leo hesitated at first, peeking out into the woods that would soon be his home. The crowd held its breath, an atmosphere of collective anticipation filling the air. Ivy cried out, tears sparkling in her eyes, urging him forward. Suddenly, he hopped out, leaping into the trees as if he had been waiting for this moment his whole life. The crowd erupted into cheers, voices rising in celebration as Leo danced from branch to branch, free and wild. In that moment, Ivy felt the weight of her choice lift off her shoulders, replaced by an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. Every ounce of anxiety had been worth it. She had not only saved a life, she had given Leo the chance to flourish. As the cheers rang out, Ivy understood that this was not just a story about a crying baby monkey found in the street. It was about compassion, unity, and the endless possibilities that arise when individuals come together for a common cause. The journey of that little monkey had woven a tapestry of connection throughout the community. People who may never have crossed paths were now united by a shared love for animal welfare. And for Ivy, it was just the beginning of a new chapter filled with purpose and passion, sparked by the innocence of a tiny creature crying for help. In the end, sometimes all it takes is one moment, one desperate cry in the night to ignite a fire that changes everything. And for Ivy, that cry became a rallying call, echoing through the heart of her community, reminding everyone that love knows no boundaries and that even the smallest creatures can lead to extraordinary transformations. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue across the quiet suburban street. A gentle breeze rustled through the leaves, but suddenly the serene sounds of the afternoon were shattered by a desperate cry that pierced the air. It was a haunting wail, unlike anything one might expect to hear on a peaceful day. Samantha, an ordinary woman with a heart for animals, was walking home after a long day at work when she stumbled upon a scene that would change her life forever. She followed the chilling sound, her gut tugging her forward, and as she rounded the corner, she saw it. A tiny baby monkey, trembling and alone, crouched next to a trash can. The little creature, no more than a few weeks old, was shaking with fear, its wide eyes shimmering with tears. It was lost, vulnerable, and desperately crying for help. Time seemed to freeze as Samantha's heart raced. She murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. She knelt down, feeling an instinctual pull toward the frightened. As she reached out her hand slowly, the monkey flinched but then leaned closer, desperate for warmth. In that moment, a powerful connection formed between them. Samantha could feel the fear radiating from the tiny body, and it ignited a fire deep within her, a fierce need to protect this innocent life. "It's okay," she said gently, her heart pounding as she scooped the monkey into her hands. His tiny body fit perfectly in her palms, and Samantha felt overwhelmed with emotions. "You're safe now." But as she held him close, the weight of reality settled in. She couldn't keep him. She knew better. Wild animals had no place in human homes, especially in a city filled with hazards. Panic washed over her as she realized she had to find help urgently. She wondered, her mind racing. Instinctively, she pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts, searching for the local wildlife rescue center. Her fingers were trembling, and the rising urgency sent adrenaline surging through her veins. "Please pick up," she whispered, her voice thick with anxiety. After what felt like an eternity of ringing, a calm voice finally answered. "There's a baby monkey," Samantha's words spilled out in a rush, desperation threading through each syllable. "Stay where you are." "We will send someone to you right away," the operator replied, satisfaction lacing their tone. "Thank you," Samantha breathed, relief washing over her if only briefly. As she waited, she cradled the little monkey against her chest, feeling his heartbeat flutter against her. The cries resumed weakly, a reminder of the little life resting in her hands. "We've got to hold on a little longer," she murmured, stroking his fur softly. The street became eerily quiet. Curious onlookers began to gather, drawn in by the commotion. One man called, stepping forward. Samantha looked up, anxiety creeping in. "I found a baby monkey." The crowd began to murmur, skepticism coating the air. A woman interjected, concern lacing her voice. Samantha shot back, a fierce determination lighting her eyes. "But he's scared and alone." His voice dripped with judgment, stirring the tension in the air. Samantha felt exposed, but she straightened her back. "Because I'm not just going to stand by and let this little guy suffer." Just then, someone from the back of the growing crowd stepped forward, a young woman with bright eyes and a confident stance. She said, her voice steady. As the woman approached, Samantha felt a flicker of hope. She carefully handed over the trembling monkey, watching as the vet examined the little creature, her hands gentle yet firm. "He's tiny but seems to be in good shape," the vet remarked, glancing back at Samantha. Just as they were about to make arrangements, another voice cut through the crowd, a man questioning their intent. What's going to happen to him? Ivy's heart raced, doubts seeped into her mind. What if they didn't care for him? But the vet responded with clear confidence, "No, our goal is rehabilitation." Samantha caught the eyes of the people around her. They seemed to shift from skepticism to empathy in an instant. There was a collective yearning to help this little creature, but there was also palpable tension. Would they really see it through? Just then, the sound of sirens pierced the air, cutting through the tension like a hot knife. Relief washed over Samantha as the wildlife rescue team pulled up in their van, clearly marked and ready for action. A tall rescuer called out as they hopped out of the van, their demeanor commanding yet kind. Samantha exclaimed, stepping forward with a rush of adrenaline. She handed over the monkey, her heart heavy yet hopeful. As they examined the little creature, the crowd watched in silence. The rescuers wrapped him in a soft blanket and placed him in a carrier, assuring Samantha that he would receive the best care. "Great job bringing him in," one of the rescuers said, his voice resonating with appreciation. Just as relief began to settle in, a man who had been watching from the back of the crowd called out, "What if he can't be saved?" Frustration bubbled up in Samantha. "You're still arguing over this?" The crowd began to shift, murmurs of concern intertwining with newfound hope. As the rescuers secured the monkey, Samantha felt a wave of resolve wash through her. Maybe, just maybe, they could rally together and make this work. Samantha called out, her voice thick with emotion, as they loaded the carrier into the van. The van pulled away, and in that moment, as the shadows lengthened and the sky transitioned to dusk, Samantha was left with a sense of fulfillment. Following her instincts had brought her to this moment, but doubt still lingered in the back of her mind. What if she wasn't enough? Days turned into weeks as Samantha eagerly awaited updates. Each morning, she would check her phone, hoping for a notification from the rescue center. Finally, her phone buzzed. A new post had gone live. Her heart raced as she clicked the notification, revealing a photo of the baby monkey nestled in soft bedding, eyes wide and alert. Tears filled her eyes as relief flooded through her. She gasped, sharing the post with friends and family, her heart swelling with excitement. Leo hadn't just survived, he was thriving. Emboldened by the joy of the moment, Samantha contacted the Wildlife Rescue Center to see how she could help further. She asked, determination filling her voice. "We're always in need of volunteers," the manager explained. Without hesitation, she agreed. The hours spent volunteering brought her closer to the animals, igniting a passion she never knew existed. Each day was filled with purpose as she scrubbed cages, fed animals, and learned about wildlife care. She spent time with Leo, watching him grow stronger, surrounded by concern and affection from all the new friends she had made. As the months passed, the day for Leo's release approached. Rescue Center announced a community event to celebrate, inviting everyone who had followed his journey. Excitement hung thick in the air as Samantha felt a pang of nostalgia for that fateful day when she found him, the little creature who had sparked a lifelong journey. On the day of the release, Samantha found herself anxiously waiting in a sun-dappled clearing surrounded by friends, families, and supporters. As she listened to the murmurs in the crowd, her heart raced with anticipation. Would he remember her? Would he thrive in the wild? Finally, the moment arrived. The doors of the carrier swung open and Leo peeked out, blinking in the bright sunlight. For a moment, time stood still as the crowd collectively held its breath, caught in the magic of the moment. "Go on, Leo," Samantha shouted, her voice filled with joy and excitement. With that encouragement, the little monkey darted out, bounding toward the trees as if every moment of captivity had vanished. The audience erupted into cheers, a wave of elation washing over the clearing as Leo disappeared into the lush canopy. Tears streamed down Samantha's cheeks as she felt the weight of an enormous emotional release. In one small creature, she had witnessed a transformation that rippled through her entire community. That day stirred something deep within everyone present, a renewed sense of purpose, an understanding of the power of compassion, and a reminder of what it truly means to care for those who cannot care for themselves. Months rolled on. Samantha continued to volunteer, pouring her heart and soul into animal care and education. She worked tirelessly to raise awareness about wildlife preservation, sharing Leo's story, inspiring others to act on behalf of the voiceless. Every post online, every event in the community, and each interaction breathed life into a collective movement that grew ever stronger. The community thrived together, bound by the thread of optimism and love for all living beings. Then came the day when she saw it, an updated post from the rescue center showcasing Leo, now fully grown and thriving in the wild, a family of monkeys at his side. The image captured the beauty of freedom, burying any lingering doubt in her heart. Samantha realized that kindness never fades, it grows, it spreads, and it transforms. As she stared at the screen, she felt a rush of gratitude for that fateful day when she had followed the sound of a tiny, desperate cry. She thought of how one single act, her simple choice to stop, to care, and to help had sparked a ripple effect that changed lives. In that moment of reflection, Samantha understood one undeniable truth. Sometimes the most profound impact begins with the smallest of creatures, and a simple act of kindness can lead to extraordinary transformations. The interconnectedness of life became evident, a beautiful tapestry woven with compassion, resilience, and love. And so, on an ordinary street behind a rusted trash can, amidst the chaos of the city, an unlikely hero was born, a cry that brought forth community and courage, reminding everyone that together they could create waves of change, lifting spirits and transforming lives. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon, the sun hanging low in the sky like a forgotten piece of gold, casting a warm shimmer on the aged sidewalks of a quiet suburban street. Children laughed as they played tag, their shrieks of joy slicing through the stillness. But then, against the backdrop of cheerful chaos, a sound emerged, a high-pitched wail, an urgent cry ringing out like a desperate alarm. Samantha, a woman in her mid-30s with an instinctive affinity for animals, was walking home after a long day of work. At first, she brushed off the sound, convinced it was just another child's tantrum. But as she walked further, the wailing reached a crescendo, thrumming in her chest like a drum. Something deep inside her stirred, pulling her off the path she usually took. She murmured to herself, urgency blooming within her. She quickly followed the sound, her heart racing. Rounding a corner, she stumbled upon a sight that both broke and wrapped around her heart. A tiny baby monkey, no more than a few months old, was huddled on the pavement, trembling and lost. Its big, tear-filled eyes reflected sheer panic as it cried, a sound so heartbreaking that it sent a chill down her spine. Samantha gasped, rushing to the baby monkey's side. How could this little creature end up here, alone and afraid in the middle of the city? As she knelt down, her heart raced. The baby monkey looked up at her, its cries softening just the slightest bit. For a moment, their eyes locked, and Samantha felt an undeniable bond forming. Without thinking, she reached out her trembling hand. "It's okay, sweetheart." The monkey hesitated, but instinctively it crawled closer to her. It took a small leap, landing in her palm. In an instant, warmth flooded through Samantha's heart. However, that warmth was quickly overshadowed by realization. She could not take it home. She knew better. Wild animals had no place in her life or in her suburban neighborhood, but leaving it here was simply not an option. "Stay with me," she whispered, holding the little creature close. As she cradled the monkey, her mind raced. What should she do? She quickly fished her phone out of her bag and scrolled through her contacts, searching for the local wildlife rescue center. Minutes felt like hours as she waited for the call to connect, each ring amplifying her anxiety. She whispered, feeling the tiny body in her hands shivering slightly. Finally, a calm voice broke through the tension. "There's a baby monkey. I found it in the street and it's really scared." Samantha's voice trembled as she relayed the details. "Stay right where you are. We're sending someone to you immediately," the operator assured her. Relief flooded through Samantha, but it was momentary. As she waited, the once quiet street now buzzed with activity. Curious neighbors began to gather, their faces painted with concern and intrigue as they drew closer to the scene. Shouted a man from the crowd, his tone curious yet laced with skepticism. Someone else chimed in, disbelief threading through their voice. Samantha's heart raced with a mix of anxiety and determination. She was grateful for the attention, but knew it could complicate matters. She called back, hoping to garner empathy. A woman suggested dismissively, "I did." She replied, her voice stronger now. Time felt suspended as the crowds murmured, growing restless. Then, as if sensing the rising tension, the little monkey clung tighter to Samantha's chest, snuggling deeper into the warmth of her embrace. She gently caressed its back, trying to soothe both it and herself. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the back of the crowd. A young woman with bright, determined eyes stepped forward. "I'm a veterinarian." Samantha's heart leaped. She asked, hope flickering in her chest like a new flame. "Yes," the vet approached with caution, her demeanor calm and confident. Samantha carefully transferred the baby monkey into the vet's hands, watching anxiously as the woman examined the tiny creature. "He's frightened but seems physically fine. We need to get him to a wildlife rehab center as soon as possible," the vet announced, her eyes narrowing slightly with concern. Just then, a man from the crowd stepped up. "What if he ends up in a zoo?" Samantha felt her stomach tighten. She couldn't bear the thought of the little monkey being caged. "He needs a chance," she shouted, desperation lacing her voice. The vet turned to the crowd. "Our goal is to rehabilitate and eventually release him back into the wild." The murmurs began to soften, shifting from skepticism to understanding. The crowd's energy shifted. There was a collective yearning to help this little creature. Just then, sirens wailed in the distance, slicing through the tension like a knife. Hope surged through Samantha when a wildlife rescue vehicle pulled up, emblazoned with bold lettering, the cavalry arriving just in time. A tall rescuer called as he hopped out of the van, determination written across his face. Samantha stepped forward, her voice strong with conviction. She handed the monkey over, her heart heavy yet hopeful. The rescue team wrapped the little creature in a soft blanket, their movements professional and swift. "Great job bringing him here," one of the rescuers said, looking at Samantha with appreciation. However, even as hope blossomed, doubts lingered. One voice in the crowd cut through. Samantha's heart sank. "He has to." The crowd had begun to disperse, but Samantha felt a sense of resolve setting in. She called to the rescuers as they drove away. Days turned into an agonizing wait. Each morning, she scrolled through her phone, longing for updates from the Wildlife Rescue Center. Finally, a notification pinged an announcement from the center. Tears of joy streamed down Samantha's face. She gasped, a wave of relief flooding through her as she shared the post with friends and family. She found herself smiling uncontrollably, her heart swelling with pride. In the days that followed, her life transformed. Inspired by Leo's journey, Samantha decided to become actively involved in the wildlife rescue community, volunteering her time every chance she got. She scrubbed cages, prepared food, and learned about animal husbandry, her passion ignited by the little monkey that had changed everything. The closer she got to the work, the more she felt the weight of responsibility for animals like Leo. It became clear that these creatures were more than just stories. They were lives that depended on human compassion and care. With each passing week, she received updates on Leo's progress. He was getting stronger, and soon they announced he would be ready for release back into the wild. The rescue center organized a special event, inviting everyone who had followed his journey to witness the moment he reclaimed his freedom. Samantha felt a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. So many people had come together to help this little monkey, and now they would all witness the fruits of their labor. On release day, a crowd gathered at a beautiful wooded area, laughter mingling with hopeful chatter as the sun shone brightly overhead. Samantha joined the throng, every heartbeat echoing the anticipation of what was to come. As the carrier door swung open, Leo peered out cautiously, blinking at the bright sunlight streaming in. The world outside loomed large, wild, and vibrant. Would he remember them? Would he know he was free? Go on, Leo. Samantha urged, tears glistening in her eyes as she cheered him on. As if in response to her encouragement, Leo took a tentative step out of the carrier before hesitating, then bounding forward into the woods, a flash of fur disappearing into the dense greenery. Cheers erupted from the gathered crowd, joy mingling with relief. Samantha felt a mixture of elation and melancholy wash over her as she realized the gravity of the moment. Leo was free. He belonged to the wild now, just as nature intended. But as the cheers subsided and the crowd began to disperse, a shadow fell over Samantha's heart. She felt elated for Leo, but cautious about the unknown. How was he doing out there? Would he be okay? Days turned into weeks again, and every time her phone buzzed, her heart would leap into her throat. She had dedicated herself to the center, and in doing so, built relationships with the other animals they rescued. Yet thoughts of Leo lingered, an unresolved thread woven into her everyday life. Then came the day the notification that would change everything again. The Wildlife Rescue Center posted an urgent message. Urgent, we need your help. Panic gripped her chest. She wondered, her stomach a tight knot of worry. Samantha quickly read through the details of the call for help. It wasn't just about those in captivity. They feared for Leo where he might be when the storm hit. With the urgency of a fire ignited within her, she gathered herself, determined to act. I need to find him, she whispered, hardly believing the words as they poured forth. The weather had begun to shift, the sky darkening ominously as clouds gathered like an impending storm. As the winds picked up, Samantha quickly aligned herself with the rescue team, ready to plunge into the wilderness to locate Leo. As they drove deeper into the forest where he'd been released, the rain began to fall, dripping steadily, quickly escalating into a torrential downpour. The drops fell heavy, pounding against the frame of the van. Samantha asked the team, her voice rising with urgency. We can only hope. He's wild now. It's instinct that keeps him safe, one of the rescuers replied, but her heart raced with uncertainty. Finally, they reached the location where Leo had been released, the wind whipping around them as they stepped into the woods. The team began calling out, their voices echoing through the trees, hoping to catch a glimpse or hear any sign of him. Samantha shouted, panic creeping into her voice. But the woods were eerily silent, an uncomfortable stillness that felt foreboding, almost ominous. As the rains poured, the underbrush trembled and shadows danced beneath the thick canopy. No one could shake the feeling of dread that settled over them. Then a flicker of movement caught Samantha's eye. Her heart leaped, the unmistakable figure of a monkey darted through the trees. Could it be Leo? She screamed, running forward, but as she drew nearer, her heart sank. It wasn't Leo. It was a wild monkey, startled by her approach. With every moment, the storm worsened. They trudged deeper into the trees, hoping against hope as the rain poured down heavier, the rumble of thunder closing in. As they searched, it became clear. The conditions were worsening, and if they didn't locate Leo quickly, they would lose their chance to help him. Just as despair threatened to wash over her, another thought pierced through her worry. Could he have found shelter? There were crevices, hollows, trees he could be hiding, waiting for the storm to pass. Time slipped away like grains of sand through her fingers. The rain soaked through her clothes, but she fought against the cold and gnawing fear. She thought back to the first moment she had found Leo crying in the streets, a lone creature surrounded by the chaos of life. This realization ignited a fire within her. She called to the others, and then it happened. A low, mournful cry echoed through the woods, cutting through the storm. That unmistakable sound sent chills down her spine. It was Leo, she shouted, sprinting in the direction of the sound, her heart pounding. The others followed, the urgency in their steps matching her own. As they broke through the dense foliage, there he was, Leo, wet and scared, huddled against the trunk of a tree, eyes wide and frantic. In that moment, every doubt melted away. He was alive. Samantha cried out, relief flooding through her. She dropped to her knees, extending her arms as he hesitated to approach. It was a showdown of sorts. Would he trust her again? But just as Leo stepped forward, a violent gust of wind howled through the trees, rattling branches and causing leaves to swirl around them. In a panic, Leo darted back, slipping deeper into the underbrush. Samantha's heart sank, now or never, she begged. The storm continued to brew, but the urgency in her voice seemed to reach him. He hesitated, glancing back at her. And it was in that moment that she remembered the bond they had forged before, the warmth she had provided. She shouted, her resolve stronger than the wind howling around them. It was that plea that broke through the fear. Leo inched forward once more, tentatively drawing closer. The team held their breath, hearts racing, watching as he finally crossed the distance between them. As he reached her, she scooped him up into her arms, wrapping him in a towel she had hastily grabbed. The storm raged around them, but in that moment it faded into the background. She had found him, and love surged through them both. But just as relief began to wash over her, a loud crack echoed through the trees. A massive branch, weakened by the storm, was breaking free. Someone shouted, their voice rising above the roar of the wind. Samantha instinctively shielded Leo with her own body, bracing for the impact as branches snapped like twigs. Would they both be safe? Would this end in tragedy just as they had found each other again? The world felt suspended, a terrifying moment caught between hope and despair, a true test of survival amidst the fury of nature. And in that heartbeat of time, surrounded by the chaos of the storm, the boundaries between human and animal blurred, each reflecting a deep, unwavering instinct to fight for life, to come together in the face of devastation. But what would be the outcome? Would they emerge together from this horrific tempest, or would fate tear them apart once more? The storm screamed around them, nature's fury unleashed, leaving the fate of Samantha and Leo hanging in the balance.